just about to take the kick-off. The Keighley team, Keith Dixon at full-back. The three-quarters, Simon Ray, Mark Milner, Simon Irving and Jason Critchley. The half-backs, Daryl Powell and Chris Robinson. And the forwards, Steve Hall, Phil Cantillon, Steve Parsons, the big Australian, Darren Fleury, Sonny Wackaroo and Martin Wood. The substitutes, Jason Ramshaw, Grant Dury, Latham Tafai and David Larder. This, of course, Phil Larder's the coach. Last game in charge of the Cougars. And hoping against hope that can finish with a winning performance. Everything's set for a great game. Both teams, that is, play open rugby. Salford team, Stevie Hampson, Fatai Sinai, Scott Naylor, Nathan McAvoy, Darren Rogers, Steve Blakely and Mark Lee, Ian Blease, Peter Edwards, Cliff Eccles, Paul Forber, Laka Savilio, Sam Panaper at loose forward. And the last time Panaper appeared at Old Trafford, he had the man of the match as far as the Wigan team were concerned when they beat Castleford. Substitutes, Ian Watson, Scott Martin, Andy Burgess and Craig Randall. Kick-off been made. Keighley are in possession, deep inside their own 20-metre area. And Martin Wood trying to make the break. Can't do so. Gets to the 20-metre line. Tackling, as you would expect, hard and fierce at the moment. One other statistic, of course, the fact that Daryl Powell is playing his, I think I'm right in saying, his fourth final here at Old Trafford and has never as yet been on the losing side and has in fact scored in every final. They kick deep, Stevie Hampson taking it, the tackle is up very quickly, Wood, and the ball's gone loose. Are Keighley going to be allowed to play on? At the moment they're playing on, but the referee having a word with the touch judge. And the touch judge saying there was a pull in the tackle, a pull of the ball in the tackle, of course, 2 men involved, and the penalty kick given to Salford. Blakely putting it into touch. The ball put in field, and it's Keighley tackling heavily, tackling hard, because these early moments are extremely important as far as both teams concerned. Neither will want to give an early try. Both of them conscious of what it means. Salford, of course, already in the Super League, and Keighley, even at this late stage, hoping against hope that the Rugby League will change their minds and alter things and allow the second place team into the Super League. The Salford, though, coming through. Good rugby. Half gap being sewn up by Sonny Wackaroo and the ball going right. There goes the bomb. Players racing in to take it, and eventually Keighley coming away with the ball. Martin Woodard acting half-back, just going forward. In fact, it's Simon Irving, my apologies. And Salford in very quickly at the tackle. Cantillon using the short side. Neither team throwing the ball about in these early moments. Both teams trying the opposition's defensive prowess out, and the ball coming into midfield now. Keighley looking for space over the halfway line into Salford territory. The ball coming back, but Irving looking to pass the ball out to the left and finding that Salford had realised what was going on, stopping the move. Again, Keighley going down the middle of the field. Chris Robinson doing well. Gets it to Mark Milner. Mark Milner inside the Salford half. The referee indicating the 6th tackle. The ball to Chris Robinson, puts the grubber kick through. Steve Hampson coming up for it. Steve Hampson taking it, and Keighley on the 20-metre line of Salford. 3 men in at the tackle, but Salford in possession, and of course the kick through, so the first tackle doesn't count. 6 to go. The ball going out right. Salford quite content to retain possession and play safety first rugby. Eccles going forward. Salford this time putting it into midfield, and a half dummy. Looks as though there might be a half break here by Salford, but Keighley's defence coming across very, very quickly indeed. A push at the tackle as Martin Wood is, according to the Salford players, laying on, and it's the scrum half Mark Lee dodging, weaving, but really making no progress, and Darren Fleury bringing him down with a tremendous tackle. The referee not very happy with it. Now there are 2 or 3 of the Salford players, and certainly the man who was the recipient, Mark Lee, by no means happy, laying down, receiving a bit of attention, and the referee having a word with Das Fleury. Darren Powell also there, and the penalty given to Salford, which will mean that they can presumably find touch not too far away from the Keighley line and put Keighley under a bit of pressure. Lee okay, just going back into his formation. The kick taken, not the best kick we'll see this afternoon, I'm sure. I think it's slice at golf would have been the terminology used there, but Salford bringing it forward. Ian Blease going forward, just short of the 20-metre line. Lee, at acting half-back, puts the ball in field, and Salford trying desperately to make the break through their big forwards. Keighley desperate to hold out. Plan move coming up. Salford coming forward. Again, the Keighley defenders very much in the fore. Paul Forber going forward, played for St Helens, of course. A man who doesn't allow any nonsense and makes his presence felt, both in defensive capabilities and everything else. The ball loose. Keighley can't get it. 6 more tackles as far as Salford concerned. Mark Lee with the ball. Keighley under pressure. Salford going forward, a couple of metres from the try line. Referee indicating that the first tackle coming up and the ball coming out. Salford for a moment looked as though they were going to make the line. Mark Lee puts the ball in field. Blakely gets the ball away. The ball's gone loose. Not good play by Salford, but luckily for them they've retained the possession of the ball, and the referee says that a Keighley man touched it, so 6 more tackles as far as Salford concerned. Certainly at the moment Keighley under a great deal of pressure as the big number 8 Ian Blease goes forward, gets rid of the ball. Is the first try on the board. In fact, the Keighley tackling coming in strong on the line and doing well to keep Salford out. Salford though putting Keighley under pressure. The ball's gone loose. Keighley breathe again, the scrum down. Keighley of course to have the advantage of the head and the ball, and Salford will no doubt look at themselves and feel that they could and should have put points on the board there, and Keighley equally no doubt will say that their tackling proved a fairly hard point at that stage of the game. Mr. Cummings not happy with the ball. The ball coming off the field of play, and Chris Robinson about to put the ball in the scrum. Robinson putting it in. As always, the wingman coming in to take the ball to try and take a bit of pressure off the forwards and the rest of the backs, but Keighley doing well, driving the ball away. Martin Wood making invaluable yardage, and Phil Cantillon getting the ball away to Sonny Wackaroo. Tremendous tackle on Wackaroo, certainly knocked him back a couple of yards. Obviously a fair tackle in that Wackaroo got up immediately and played the ball, and now Daryl Powell trying to find space. 6 tackle indicated by the referee. The ball going left, going to be the kick over the top by Keith Dixon, that one being allowed to go into touch, and it's a scrum down literally on the Salford 20-metre line. But this time the unfortunate thing is that Salford will have the advantage of the head and ball, and in this modern game that we play these days, that means that it's 99.99% certain that Salford will come away with the ball. Mark Lee putting it in, gets it to the wingman Fatasini coming in. Sini tackle just outside the 20-metre line. The ball back in field, and ominously for Keighley, a lot of room at the play the ball, but if the referee is keen on the 10-metre rule, and certainly Mr. Cummings is one of those referees who makes his presence felt around that area, then there's a great deal of room, and it's very difficult to top teams when they get into their stride. But Keighley doing well, in at the tackle again. Darren Fleury getting up out of the tackle. Phil Cantillon also there, kick over the top. A race back by Critchley. Keith Dixon going to be the first there. In fact, Jason Critchley taking the ball. Looked odds on from my angle that Keith Dixon would take it, but Dixon doing his job, getting to acting half-back and having to drive the ball away. All to nothing, in fact, because the referee is saying that Salford were offside. And the early moments fairly even as far as the game concerned. Salford arguably having the territorial advantage, but the Keighley tackling feeling very substantial this afternoon and not having too many problems. And they can take pride in the fact that in these early moments of the game they've not only kept Salford out but knocked them back on several occasions. Steve Parsons making a break, Chris Robinson putting the ball into midfield. Nil-nil the score here at Old Trafford. Sonny Wackaroo trying to find space for Simon Irving. Managed to get the ball around the man but couldn't get the pass in at the last moment, and now Chris Robinson getting it to Powell. Powell again trying to find Fleury and getting him through space. Fleury inside the Salford half. Lost the ball. Certainly thought my eyes had deceived me there because the referee was so slow in making the decision. Touch judge indicating to the referee that there was a knock-on. Quite why the referee missed it only he will know, but at the same time it has to be said that referees have so many things to look for these days that it is very difficult. Lee then allowing Panaper to pick the ball out of the scrimmage. Panaper going forward, gets the ball back to Rogers. Rogers deep inside the Keighley half of the field. Paul Forber immensely strong, powerful. Done a lot of tackling so far, now making his presence felt with the ball in his hands, and Salford moving the ball across. For a moment Lee nearly passed to the man who was in front of him, but managed at the last moment to hold the pass and allow the man to go forward and then put it into the correct position. Out to the wing then. The ball coming to Sinney. Sinney, strong man. Seen him score some tremendous tries. Had a great game against Wigan in the Challenge Cup earlier on in March, and now the ball coming left. Ball coming out. Paul Forber again looking for the gap, looking for the inside pass, but the tackling there was strong, sound and secure and prevented him from passing with the ball. Lee putting the kick through. Not the best of kicks, a little bit like a dribble by a 2-year-old just learning to kick a football. Obviously his feet didn't follow the pattern of his brain, and Keighley having no problems in stopping the attack and getting hold of the ball. Still 0-0 then here at Old Trafford. No points on the board yet. Plenty of action but no real points threatening moves by either side. Obviously points will arrive. 20,000 or so watching the game, and Cantillon going from acting half-back. Arguably the quickest man certainly in the first division of the Rugby League from acting half-back. Has tremendous pace, and certainly no secret that he is as quick over a certain yardage as the majority of the Cougars' backs. The physio going on to have a look at someone. Keith Dixon in the meantime quite rightly getting on with the game. Simon Ray retrieving the ball quickly and getting it infield to Cantillon to Parsons. Parsons driving forward. Parsons had a tremendous game against Hull in the semi-final. Be looking for a big game here this afternoon. Great tragedy from everybody's point of view that Andy King unable to play, but Simon Irving going through. Simon Irving practically up to the 20-metre line of Salford before he's dragged down. Unfortunate, couldn't get his pass out of the tackle, tried desperately hard to do so, and Sonny Wackaroo tackled on the touchline side. The referee going across, and in fact a scrimmage has been given. Salford will have the advantage, and this super ground here at Old Trafford, which has a capacity now of over 54,000, looking empty even though there are over 20,000 people watching, and hopefully a bigger gate of round about the 35,000-40,000 mark when eventually Wigan and St Helens kick off round about 7 o'clock, 7:30 time. Salford in the meantime quite content to play safety first rugby. Andy Gregory, their coach, had one or two hard things to say about the Keighley Razzmatazz, but at the same time I know he respects the coaching of Phil Larder and the way that the Keighley Cougars boys play the game, and knows this will be a hard game. Paul Forber just short of the halfway line before he's tackled. Salford again moving the ball right into midfield, looking for the gap. The gap's not there because it's closed up as soon as it half appears by the big number 10 Steve Parsons and Phil Cantillon. Kick down, Keith Dixon perfectly positioned, and he going forward. Keith Dixon, the only one of the Keighley team who can remember the dismal days when, if we got 500 watching us at Cougar Park, or Lorcombe Lane as it was known then, that was a big crowd, and he, I'm sure, delighted to be playing in this present company with a team that's reckoned throughout the world of rugby league to be a powerful one in its own right. Cantillon going through over the halfway line, using that electrifying pace yet again, but again the Salford men tying him up. Wood moving it out left. Keighley desperate to get points on the board. The ball coming in field, well taken there, and there's a half chance here. Daryl Powell going for the line. Powell's going to score. In fact, Powell dragged down a metre or so short. In fact, the referee is indicating, I think, that he made a double movement, but Daryl Powell so close to scoring the opening points of the afternoon. I'm sure that when he looks at it again, he'll think, how was he tackled just short of the line? I suppose some credit has to be given to the Salford defenders, but certainly Powell looked a certain scorer next to the post and would have kept up his record of scoring every time he's appeared here at Old Trafford. Obviously have to wait for a while. The ball played, 0-0 still to score here at Old Trafford. Sinai going through, and Fatah Sinai tackled on the 20-metre line. Keighley again getting in their tackles quickly before the Salford attacking force can put itself together, but Salford beginning to move the ball about, enterprising, gone through 7 hands, comes out to the wing. Good strong tackle from Simon Ray, who gets in very quickly down at the ankles before Rogers can make any type of a break, and it's Salford still in possession over the halfway line. Ball going into midfield, ball's gone loose. Keighley are in possession on the halfway line. Long ball out, Martin Wood looking here, there and everywhere, but not finding a win. Cantillon gets the ball back, and Keighley still moving the ball. Daryl Powell getting it to Wackaroo, short of the 20-metre line. Mr. Cummings right on the play, indicating that there was a knock-on, and it will be the advantage to Salford with them getting the ball on the head. And the supporters of both teams getting alongside them, but it has to be said that without question there are more, in fact my apologies, given a penalty to Keighley. Thought for a moment he'd given the scrum down, but Simon Irving about to have a shot at goal, and as I was saying, certainly many more Keighley supporters here than Salford, and they making their presence felt. Just down below me a vast contingent of Keighley supporters, and certainly they enjoying the afternoon. Hoping against hope, of course, that Keighley can win the game and go back with the spoils. On saying that, there's no cheque at the end of the day for the winning side, merely a cup, which in this day and age seems rather incongruous that there is no financial reward, even though there's supposed to be £87 million gone into the game. A big final. No financial reward, apart from the fact, of course, that Keighley will have a share of the gate around, I would guess, and I am guessing, £30,000 to £35,000. Irving then, putting the ball down. Not the most difficult of kicks, but kicks in finals are always pressure kicks. Always remember the one Steve Quinn did at Wembley for Featherstone Rovers, which won them the Challenge Cup. Not the most difficult kick, but when you think of the pressures that were upon him that afternoon, certainly any kick even from in front of the posts was difficult. Simon Irving then with the opportunity of putting the Cougars in the lead. Placed the ball some 10-12 metres in from the touchline. Certainly got the height, no question about that. Both touch judges are in accord, and the Cougars go into a 2-0 lead here at Old Trafford against Salford. Kick-off, of course, by the Cougars under the new rules and regulations these days. And the kick from the centre spot. Just about halfway through this first half. Cougars in the lead 2-0, and will be delighted, I know Phil Lard in particular will be delighted with their defensive display. Defence playing a great part in today's game, even though so many points are scored at various games, and the Cougars doing quite well. Salford just short of the halfway line, still a couple of tackles to go, the ball going right. Can the Cougars not only hold Salford out, but can they put more points on the board? So close with that Darryl Powell effort, which was inches short of the try line. The only points on the board at that try by that goal rather by Simon Irving. Mark Lee rather putting me off then as he put the kick through, but Cougars recovering themselves and managing to get there to take the ball. Not only that, but driving it practically to the 20-metre line before they're halted. Jason Critchley having a tilt. Jason Critchley enjoyed his season, asking to go on the transfer list because, like everyone, he wants to play at the higher echelons of the game, which is Super League. And now Daz Fleary going forward. Daz Fleary midway between the halfway line and the 20-metre line. 2-0, remember, the Cougars in the lead. The ball in field. Cougars still going forward. Darren Fleary loses the ball. Salford are in possession. Second time Fleary's lost it this afternoon, and Salford in possession. Mark Milner not able to make the tackle, but at least it's sufficient to ensure that his teammate could get across and make the tackling. Rogers going forward. Cougars tackling well, standing up to their task. The ball going into midfield, the ball going out right. Mark Lee puts the ball back. Good planned move with the angles as far as Salford concerned. Andy Gregory's work at Wigan showing here, and the ball still with Salford, still going forward. Short ball by Panaper. Salford in midfield. Pass out to the wing, good tackle by Ray, but Salford still going forward through Mark Lee. Is there a try here? The try's been scored, but we're now going to have to wait and see what decision the referee gives. The referee has ruled no try as far as Salford concerned, and in fact is taking Keighley to the 20-metre line. In fact, going to the 10-metre line, giving the scrum down, and presumably the advantage will be with Keighley. In fact, Chris Robinson holding the ball, settling my mind as to what's happening, and Simon Ray coming in at first man, getting to the 20-metre line before he's stopped. 2-0 Keighley in the lead. Powell moving the ball out wide. Martin Wood looking for space. 10 metres outside his own 20-metre line. Had a bad foot, playing with injections, Martin Wood. Simon Irving going forward, does well to get the ball to Wood. Wood moves the ball to Chris Robinson. Chris Robinson puts the ball in field to the big man Power, and the Parsons rather, and Parsons having no alternative than to die with the ball. Cantillon going through. Cantillon's over the halfway line, lacing up to the 20-metre line. He's only got Hampson to beat. Cantillon going in for the try, and that an absolutely magic try as far as the Cougars are concerned. Hampson and Chris Robinson having some sort of an argument off the ball. Quite why, I don't know, because certainly the try was clear cut. And Phil Cantillon, absolutely superb there. I said earlier that he had tremendous pace for a number 9, and Phil Cantillon showed it there. Went through the Salford defenders and then went on the outside of Stevie Hampson, took him on in the race for the line, and scored the try some 12 metres in from the touchline, and the Cougars go in the lead 6-0, and the conversion attempt practically from the same spot that Simon Irving kicked the penalty. So a magic try as far as the Cougars concerned then. Certainly Cantlon's outstanding pace, the last time he played here at Old Trafford was for the Wigan Academy side against St Helens in the Academy final, and on that occasion St Helens gave Wigan, who were the strongest of favourites, a bit of a hammering. But Cantlon making his intentions felt, going in for a tremendous try, and the Cougars in the lead 6-0 with the goal kick to come. Simon Irving with the kick at goal, just poising himself, coming up to take the kick. The kick taken certainly again has got the height, but this time both touches in accord the wrong way as far as Keighley concerned, indicating that the kick was wide, and the margin now between the sides 6 in favour of the Keighley Cougars. "25 minutes of play gone, Keighley in the lead 6-0, and it's Salford using the current catchphrase, playing catch-up rugby and having to come and try and put points on the board. Second row man Savilio going forward. First time we've really seen him a great deal in this game. But Salford still in possession, still inside their own half of the field. Good strong tackle by Parsons. And strong tackling in the middle of the field by Darren Fleury and Phil Cantlon. Mark Lee putting the diagonal kick over the top. Well read by Keighley, and Keighley not only in possession but given a free kick for offside. Sonny Wakaru wanting to perpetuate a bit of an argument, the referee quite rightly stopping him dead in his tracks and saying let's get on with playing rugby league football, and Keith Dixon getting hold of the ball, ignoring everything about him and punting the ball towards the touchline and straight into the stand, so that Keighley are well inside the Salford half and have possession of the ball. Keighley then desperately needing more points, 6-0 in the lead, and Darren Fleury doing his best to get them into a position of power. Chris Robinson taking that short ball from Stevie Hall and going inside the half, and the referee giving a forward pass when a try by Parsons looked practically certain, and a bit of niggle going on out there in the middle of the park. Steve Parsons having an argument, and obviously a lot of verbal chat going on, which is causing a few people to have short tempers. And again, credit to Cummings, the referee, because he got between them and told them not to be so and so stupid and get on with the game. And in the meantime, Mark Lee putting the ball into the scrum and doing the impossible, being pulled back for putting it into his own second row, although no penalty was ensuing. Fatasine going forward. Salford using the man running in front of the man before he gets the ball to advantage. No obstruction given in this day and age, but certainly not too many years ago it used to be an obstruction. Forber going forward. Forber dangerous, made the half break, wasn't allowed to pass the ball. Stevie Hall, the man who managed to drop on him and prevent it, and the bomb. This spells danger as far as Keighley concerned. Beautifully taken over on the far touchline, and Jason Critchley doing tremendously well to take the ball under a lot of pressure, and Simon Irving having to do the forwards job, it could be argued, in driving the ball away. 6-0, remember, the Cougars in the lead. Simon Ray coming in to do his part. Chris Robinson moving it out wide to Powell. Powell, long ball out. Keighley still running the angles, still trying to find the gap. Wackaroo over the halfway line. Daryl Powell getting it to Parsons. Parsons again having a big game and looking dangerous. Might perhaps look a trifle ungainly at times, but certainly does well. And Daryl Powell trying to put the kick in, tackled immediately, got the ball by Scott Naylor, and the ball not going where he intended, and Salford having no problems in retrieving the ball and coming away with it. Paul Forber moving the ball along, but good tackling by Keighley. Simon Ray justifying his presence here this afternoon with his tackling. Simon Ray again, but couldn't prevent the ball going in at the tackle or going out of the tackle, and it's Salford moving the ball across the backs. Good tackling by Keighley, good play by Salford in bringing the ball back. Panaper going forward, Panaper just short of the halfway line. Paul Forber gives a dummy, not deliberately I think, basically because the man got in front of him, but nevertheless shows a football brain when he kept hold of the ball and went forward. The kick going forward, still going forward. Can Keighley retrieve the ball? Keith Dixon does just that. The referee though saying there's a knock on, and I have a feeling that the advantage might be Salford's here. Have to wait and see, but it's looking very much that way. 31 minutes, or practically 31 minutes of the first half gone. Mark Lee having to go and retrieve the ball, and the Cougars still with that slender lead of 6-0, and a substitution being made by Keighley. Steve Hall going off, David Larder coming on. Plan move by Salford. Lee came one way, the ball went the other way with Panaper. Bit of rare you see that in today's football. Any planned moves behind the scrum seem to be frowned on, but Salford in possession just short of the 20-metre line. Salford, no support there. Lee going on his own, tackled 12 metres short of the try line. The ball coming across to the left. Good work as far as Salford concerned, again using the angles. Darren Fleury again managing to get into the tackle. 6 tackle indicated. Salford going to move the ball across the backs. The kick through has gone loose. Picked up, I think, by Salford. In fact, confirmation of that. And Salford, with 9 minutes of this first half to go, have 6 more tackles to go in front of the Keighley posts. Keighley still in the lead 6-0. Salford driving forward. Daryl Powell played the ball, and Daryl Powell has been penalised, and the referee, leaning towards the back pocket, gives him the yellow card for holding the play up. Well, that is a monumental decision at this time of the game. That was certainly no worse than a million other incidents I've seen of that nature, and very rarely, if ever, have I seen anyone sent to the sin bin for such a minuscule offence. That really was a very, very harsh decision by the referee, Mr. Cummings, who I think I'm right in saying has got the Referee of the Season award, but certainly following Greg McCullum's edicts to the letter of the law there, and certainly if that deserved a sin binning, then basically every game could finish with 9 men in the sin bin at some stage, or a little bit similar to ice hockey. But nevertheless, the referee has given it. The Cougars have had to accept it, and Steve Blakely has kicked the goal to put Salford back within sight of the Cougars, and the scoreline now reading 6-2, and the Cougars with 8.5 minutes to go to half-time with 12 men, and they're obviously going to find this very hard work indeed. 6-2, the Cougars 12 men, and I think controversy regarding Mr. Cummings' decision there. I think one thing that referees should bear in mind is the fact that the crowds come to watch 13 men playing 13 men, and in the final of this nature, for the Cougars to suddenly find themselves down to 12 men really is going to be hard work. The Salford team reckon to have pinched the ball there, so the penalty kick being given to Keighley. One or two boos and rather abusive comments from the Keighley supporters being aimed at Mr. Cummings. And as he comes to the touchline, the torrent of abuse getting even stronger. But certainly that was a decision that will be controversial in rugby league circles, and even more so around Cougar Park and the pubs and clubs of Keighley. Martin Wood, middle of the park, getting up to play the ball. Phil Cantillon moving it. Keighley with the ball, desperately trying to make the gap for a moment. Looked as though it was there, but at the last moment the defence of Salford held out. Wood moving the ball. Sonny Wakaru gets the ball back to Irving. Irving gets it back to Martin Wood. Martin Wood, good ball. Parsons going forward. Can he get out of the tackle? In fact, he can't do so. Bit of a struggle going on in the middle of the field. Parsons' jersey held over his head. Phil Cantillon again going from acting half-back, but this time a couple of men shadowing him, making sure he doesn't go too far. The sixth tackle indicated, and Salford back in possession. 6-2 then, the Cougars in the lead. 5 minutes to half-time. There's a gap here. Salford are going through it. Keith Dixon having to get across quickly. Gets across with Critchley and manages to stop the man and the ball, but the Salford team within sight of the Keighley line now, coming across. Good strong tackling from Keighley, but Salford in possession. Moving the ball out wide. Good ball. For a moment looked as though the defence would yield, but Mark Milner did well to get in with the tackle. Salford moving it out. Queuing up to get the ball, and good tackling by Keighley. Keighley back in possession, and the touch judge was indicating, I thought, a knock-on which the referee has totally ignored, has allowed play to go on. Fortunately, as far as Keighley concerned, and Keighley in possession, they've got to ride these 6 tackles and then take play back inside the Salford 20-metre line, and then hope that they can get to half-time and a minute or so into the second half and get Darryl Powell back on the park. Parsons again beating the first man. 4 minutes to go in this first half. Keith Dixon putting the long kick down the field. Sinai picking the ball up. This fella is tremendously strong, but even his strength can't get him through Darryl Fleury. But again, Salford are in possession. Salford going through. Good tackle again by Mark Milner. Did well. Lee going forward. Lee tackled just short of the halfway line. Salford trailing 6-2. But Keighley, remember, down to 12 men. And Salford looking dangerous, making the breakthrough. Might be a try here as far as Blakely is concerned, and Blakely going underneath the post, and that try, has to be said, has always looked as though it might be on the cards, basically ever since Powell went off the park or was asked to leave the park. The only hesitation I have about that try is that I personally thought that Mr. Cummings, the referee, managed to obstruct one of the Keighley defenders coming across the park, trying desperately to get to Blakely, but the referee has allowed the try, and certainly even if he did obstruct a Keighley player, then the try would still be allowed. But at the back of my mind, I'd be interested in seeing the replay, because certainly at the back of my mind I have an impression that Mr. Cummings managed to obstruct a Keighley player coming across to try and get in at the tackle. But the try is good. It's fairly obvious that the goal kick will be good. Confirmation of that. And Keighley, from being 6-0 in the lead when Darryl Powell was sent to the sin bin, suddenly find themselves 8-6 in arrears, and not too far away from the half-time hooter. Kick-off from the centre spot by Salford, of course. In excess of 20,000 now inside this magnificent ground here at Old Trafford. The playing surface in absolutely marvellous condition. The new stand fully completed, and it really is a tremendous sight here at Old Trafford to see the crowds gathering to watch this rugby league occasion. David Larder over his own 20-metre line, but not able to make progress. Phil Cantlon, at acting half-back, elects to go on his own and receives a bit of a buffeting in the process, and Parsons making the break. 8-6, Salford in the lead. Martin Wood going forward, not able to make too much progress. The ball going left to Keith Dixon, and Keith Dixon again with that grubber kick. Again, symptomatic of the modern game, that nobody makes an effort to stop it, just allows it going to touch, knowing that it's 99.99% certain that at the scrimmage they'll obtain the ball, and the scrum down forming just outside the Salford 20-metre line. 8-6 then, the Cougars in arrears. And Salford just driving the ball. Bit of a mess up on their own 20-metre line, but eventually all coming well, and Martin Wood across with Simon Ray very quickly to prevent too much progress being made. And Salford losing the ball. Well, was that a knock-on? In my book it was, but the referee's the man in charge out there and elected to allow play to go on. Certainly in the dying moments of this first half, it would have done Keighley a power of good to have had possession of the ball 10 metres or so from the 20-metre line, and Chris Robinson also appealing there that he received a bang off the ball which should have been penalised. Mr. Cummings, it's fair to say, not the most respected or the most liked man on the park by the Keighley players or the Keighley supporters. But Salford have ridden the storm, as it were. They're inside the Keighley half. We're in the dying moments of the game, or of the first half rather. 8-6, and Salford looking dangerous, no question about that. Throwing the ball about well, finding support and people coming up backing the man with the ball, and they are looking intensely dangerous, and Keighley will be waiting for the half-time hooter. The half-time hooter, in fact, has just gone. So here at Old Trafford, the scoreline reading half-time: Salford 8, Keighley Cougars 6. The two teams coming back on the field then, the girls who've been entertaining the crowd with their dancings, etc., making their way again to the touchline sides, and Salford first on the field. They, of course, the team to the left as we look at the ground now, and the Cougars coming out hoping against hope they can hold Salford out for the first couple of minutes or so of the second half, and then with Daryl Powell back, take the game to Salford and score more points. Half-time reminder, the scoreline reading: Salford 8, the Cougars 6. The cup in place down to my right, ready to present it to the winning captain. And as I say, the anomaly, the stupidity, the fact that there is no check for the winning side of this important, so-called important cup final. Kick-off taken then, and Salford obviously in possession. Phil Cantlon again very quickly up. Sonny Wakaru in at the tackle on the second occasion, along with Steve Parsons. As I said previously, Mark Milner doing a sterling job out there in the centre, but it could be argued that King, who was one of the Cougars' best players until getting the injury a few weeks ago, unfortunately he not out in the middle. Be interesting to see what happens regarding Parsons and King as next season beckons, but I suppose a long time before then. The bomb up in the air. Keith Dixon having to turn round, takes it beautifully, does extremely well to have to face the wrong way and take the ball, and certainly I think that possibly one or two cricketing sides could take a lesson from the way Keith Dixon took that ball. Calmness personified as the Salford Legions were charging down on him, and he took the ball without any problems at all. Das Fleury going forward, breaks the first tackle, but the second two defenders both there. Cantillon again from acting half-back makes Forward appear pedestrian and extremely slow, but again Salford very, very quick to get across in their masses and prevent any real danger, and the ball going across. Keith Dixon does well, gets it to Simon Irving. Simon Irving looking to try and break the Salford defenders, couldn't do so. Interesting that Ian Blease was the man out on the ranks there to stop him. Kick down the touchline side, eventually taken by Darren Rogers, and Darren Rogers coming through. Big strong boy this, played for the Dewsbury club of course, was an unheard of transfer when he went, certainly no publicity whatsoever, but has made his impact at the Willows, playing for Salford under Andy Gregory, and I'm sure that his move from Salford being good for him and also good for the Salford club. Salford then in possession, still in the lead by 8-6. Simon Irving doing well with Jason Critchley to stop the Salford hordes as they come running down the touchline. The scrum half doing well, Mark Lee that is, to get the ball to Forber, and credit to the Cougars defenders who got across in force to stop the man. For a moment felt that, or thought that Mr Cummings was going to penalise Fleury, but play allowed to go on, and Forber just content to pass the ball, and basically Salford playing in a 10-yard square area there at the moment. The ball's come out. Parsons, I think, was the man who pulled it, despite looking so innocent, and the referee has no hesitation whatsoever in giving Salford the penalty kick, and it's Steve Blakely to take the kick and put the ball into touch. 8-6, the Cougars trailing here at Old Trafford. Can they get points on the board and get in the lead? Certainly very important that they do so. Perfect afternoon for rugby league football, not too hot. The pitch in absolutely magnificent condition, and Keighley under pressure as Salford throw attackers forward in what seems legions. Blease was the man, now it's Blakely moving the ball out wide. Forber going on his own, but the tackle coming in strongly from Martin Wood, preventing any progress, and this time it's the hooker Edwards. Edwards going forward, knocks Martin Wood off. Substitute going forward, can Keighley get in there? Richard Webster was of course a Salford player before moving to the Bath Rugby Union club. He would have normally been one of the substitutes, not this afternoon. Long ball out, possibility here that the kick through. Is there a try going on? In fact, the ball has gone dead. For a moment it looked as though Mark Lee might have been obstructed off the ball, and that again surely a sin-binning offence. Eccles deliberately headed the ball away as Keighley were trying to get the ball played quickly on the 20-metre line, and the referee has totally ignored it. In my book that is wasting time, slowing things down, and if Darrell Powell deserved a sending to the sin bin, then certainly Eccles did. I thought out of the corner of my eye I saw Simon Irving making a very strong protest to the referee, but Mr Cummings totally ignoring it and allowing play to go on. But I think Mr Eccles can rate himself very fortunate indeed that he wasn't sent to the sin bin. Still, these things happen in the heat of the moment. Things have to be done in milliseconds. And now it's Keighley through Darrell Powell going inside the Salford half. Keith Dixon putting the grubber kick down. Salford quite content to allow it to go into touch, and certainly as far as I'm concerned that a bad rule. Hookers should have some possibility of getting the ball at the scrimmage. In current rugby league you might as well play the ball as put a scrum down, because there is absolutely no chance whatsoever of getting the ball at a scrum, no matter how good a hooker you are. Certainly some of the all-time greats, the Sam Smiths who played for Hunslet, and Joe Egan who of course was at Wigan, Dave Cotton who had a few odd games at Keighley during the wartime. They'd have shuddered at today's rules, but I rather wonder if we haven't made the game perhaps that little bit too fast. The ball coming out. Keighley again, as we forecast, having to tackle desperately. Sonny Wackaroo doing well, along with Simon Irving. But still coming forward. Ian Blease, the latest Salford man, to have a tilt at the Keighley defence. Keighley trailing by 8-6. Salford moving the ball out wide. Is there a possibility here? Then Panaper puts the ball out. The ball's gone astray. Surely a knock-on has to be given with the advantage to Keighley. And for once, the referee, hearing the chants of the Keighley supporters, gives the scrum down. And we've just had some 10 minutes of play in the second half. 8-6 still. Keighley, of course, been back to full strength for some 7 minutes or so. Daryl Powell at standoff. Stevie Hall coming back to the field of play. Steve Powers, the man who's Steve Parsons, we'll keep on calling him Powers, goodness knows why. And Chris Robinson putting the ball in the scrum. Daryl Powell just moving it out wide. Mark Milner does well. Avoids the first tackle but can't get away from the second, and the ball coming on the short side. Martin Wood, favourite ploy to go into the tackle and let the ball go late to put the man in support through, and this time it's Sonny Wackaroo. Got the wingman Critchley outside him but can't get the ball out to him. Good solid tackling by Salford, stifling both man and ball. Again Robinson throwing the ball out wide to Wood. Dixon coming to the line. David Larder makes the break. David Larder up to the 20-metre line. Takes Hampson on the outside. Still going forward. Larder doing well to avoid going into touch. For a moment looked as though he might score. The ball coming into midfield to Wood. Wood moves it out wide to Daryl Powell. Daryl Powell gets the ball to Wackaroo. Wackaroo out to Jason Critchley. Jason Critchley does well. Gets to the half gap. 8 metres away from the try line. Last tackle coming up. The ball to Simon Irving. Irving puts the short kick through it. Ricochets from a Salford man. And then is picked up by a Salford man. Again, be interesting to see the replay of that. I must confess that my own words threw me then, saying ricocheted from a Salford man and then picked up by a Salford man. But the referee was infinitely closer to the spot than I. Allowed play to go on, and Salford in possession, but only a couple of metres away from their own try line. Keighley's best opportunity of the second half coming to nothing. Martin Wood doing well despite the fact that he has a bad foot, and perhaps if it hadn't been the last game of the season would not have played. Forber puts the ball in field, but Salford still pinned on their own 20-metre line and having a struggle at the moment to get away, but the kick through, useful kick. Going down the touchline side. Keith Dixon for a moment thinking of picking it up and running it out, and then perhaps wiser counsel prevailed in that he allowed the ball going into touch. Again, to come back to the old argument, knowing very well that the ball would be Keighley's from the scrimmage. Fleary playing at prop. Chris Robinson putting the ball in. Moves it to Powell. Powell trying to play the angles. Simon Irving, the man coming onto the ball. And the man who tackled him rather, Scott Naylor. A couple of good centres, Scott Naylor and Nathan McAvoy. Nathan McAvoy, only a youngster, rated very highly in international circles, never mind club circles. And certainly my feeling is that Salford will do reasonably well in Super League, providing they can strengthen, and we already know that John Cartwright, the Australian, is coming to join them in the second row. Chris Robinson doing well to take a hard pass by Daryl Powell. Steve Hall not doing so well when he and Martin Wood had a misunderstanding. Between them made a hash of things, and the ball went loose, and the referee had no alternative other than to give a scrum down. Practically halfway through the second half, and still the scoreline reading 8-6, and Panaper, as he does so often, bringing the ball away from the loose forward berth. Panaper not playing with Salford next season, been a good player with Sheffield, Wigan and Salford, and it's Salford bringing it down the short side. Fatasini, who relishes the physical side of rugby league, being well tackled. But now Lee doing well, gets the ball away. The ball going to the wing side. Blakey looking for support, can't find it. The only support found, Martin Wood, who comes in with a crunching tackle. But Salford on the attack. Darren Rogers going through. Darren Rogers doing well. 6 tackle indicated by the referee. Still 8-6 in favour of Salford. Blakely putting the grubber kick through. Keighley, for a moment, seemed to be having a sleep until Keith Dixon realised how dangerous the kick through was. Got through quickly, and by the time he got there had no alternative other than to kick it into the back row of the stand. And this will mean, of course, a drop out from under the posts, and the result will be that Salford will be back in possession. Sinai going forward. Didn't catch the ball directly, just quite content to allow it to touch his shins. Salford making the drive inside the Keighley 20-metre area. 8-6 down, Keighley member. Blease doing well. That was a good pass. Salford 10 metres away from the try line. The ball going into midfield. Lee throws the long ball out. It's a good pass. Is there danger here as far as Keighley concerned? Was that a knock on? The referee says no and allows play to go on. And it's Keighley under the Kosh having to take pressure. Blease driving forward. Good tackle coming in from Darren Fleary. Must have 25-30 tackles at the moment, Darren Fleary. The ball coming back into midfield. The drop kick which ricochets from a Keighley man. Keith Dixon gratefully drives on it. And the whole of the Keighley team, I think, breathe a sigh of relief. Realise that they're still in the game. And Simon Ray makes a drive that takes them practically to the 20-metre line. Keighley driving the ball away, still trailing by 8-6. Phil Cantillon trying to emulate that brilliant first half try. Certainly, whatever the result, Cantillon will relish the video of that try for many, many years to come. Obviously got a lot of years, hopefully still at Keighley, as far as rugby league concerned, and certainly his move from Wigan being a good move for him and also for the Keighley Cougars Rugby League Club. Good kick from Keith Dixon, deep. Doesn't find touch, which again is good. Fatasini gets the ball, comes forward. Simon Irving proves his strength and fitness by standing still. In fact, Steve Hall. Twice I've been confused by Steve Hall and Simon Irving. I'm sure they'll both be flattered by that. And Steve Hall again in at the tackle as Salford get outside their own 20-metre line. Eccles proved a tower of strength, but Paul Forber, of course, the man with the ball at the moment. Eccles, who can rate himself very fortunate indeed not to have been sin-binned. The referee must have seen it, so must the touch judge, so quite where their judgment was, only they know. And in the meantime, Salford driving the ball down. We're going to see the kick over the top here. In fact, a half dummy, and Phil Cantillon and Steve Hall got it right this time, refusing to take it, getting in at the tackle, and it's Lee getting away. Steve Hall does well, half stops him, but the ball's gone loose. An opportunity here as far as Keith is concerned, can't take it. Forber puts the kick over the top, also puts in a fairly hard tackle, and Forber, the type of forward who will make his presence felt no matter what the game, and Simon Ray doing well to run away from the danger area and give the Cougars forwards and backs a few moments breathing space. Mark Milder driving forward. Still that scoreline, 8-6. The Cougars still in this game, throwing a long ball out. Powell again gives it to Simon Irving, coming on the angle. Simon Irving again getting the bang. And the ball with Martin Wood. Wood does well, but Mark Milner unfortunately can't take the ball. So the Cougars in a wee bit of trouble there. And the ball going to come back. Going to be a scrum down. And the touch judge on. Quite why, I don't know. Nor does anybody else by the looks of things. Grant Dory, who's on as a sub, just having a look around. And in fact, Steve Hall eventually is the guilty party, if that's the right term. He going to be spoken to by the referee. No doubt they're just asking each other where they're going for a beer after the game or something like that. And we've just had 15 minutes of the second half and a good break by Salford. Salford breaking down. Can Keighley get there? Brilliant tackle at the end of the day. That really was a tremendous tackle by Keighley, and not only a tremendous tackle by Critchley, he also stole the ball, which is allowable in a one-to-one tackle, and Keighley again breathed, but at the moment under a lot of pressure, and certainly Salford looking perhaps the better side, although on saying that it's been a very, very close game, and 8-6 perhaps wouldn't have been the score if the referee, Mr. Cummings, hadn't sent Darrell Powell to the sin bin. Keighley coming away with the ball. That's the best they've put together in this second half. For a moment, looked as though Jason Critchley might get away. Robinson putting the ball out to David Larder. Larder to Simon Irving. Simon Irving doing well not only to take the ball under pressure from Fattesini, but to stay in and retrieve the ball and manage to play it and get it into midfield. Good ball to Keith Dixon. Keith Dixon gives a dummy. Anybody with him? No, the pass is bad, but the kick through by Sonny Wackaroo. And I suppose that's symptomatic of Keighley's luck this afternoon, in that the kick through could have gone anywhere and in fact went straight to Blakely for Salford. Salford driving the ball away, 8-6 in the lead, and we're deep into the second half. Salford, centre of the field. And Martin Wood doing well to get across and stifle man and ball. Peter Edwards putting the ball into midfield to Mark Lee. Mark Lee, who is one of the great drop goal exponents of the current rugby league game. And Lee getting the ball. Short kick through, going to be taken, I think, eventually by Jason Critchley. Critchley doing well, Critchley racing away, and Critchley half taken. Plays the ball quickly. Simon Irving puts the ball into midfield to Martin Wood. Martin Wood to Sandy Wackaroo, but Wackaroo really without much chance. And Grant Dory does well, gets into the tackle, getting up, trying quite desperately to play the ball quickly. Dory paying a visit to South Africa during our close season, and Phil Cantlon inside the Salford half of the field. Stevie Hall to Chris Robinson, to Martin Wood. Martin Wood gives a dummy. Nobody on the Salford side took it. Darrell Powell looking for the gap. Turned round looking for the man inside, but Simon Irving there quickly at acting half-back. Gets the ball back in field to Cantlon. Cantlon does well to get it to Dory. And Dory must have struck the most optimistic drop goal that's ever been struck in the history of rugby league, I think. Then quite what struck him to do that when the Cougars were trailing 8-6, goodness only knows. Not only was it unsuccessful, it was lamentably unsuccessful, and must be one of the worst drop kicks that has ever been seen, as I say, in the history of rugby league. Sonny Wackaroo, intent on not making the worst tackle in rugby league history and doing well to tackle. Panaper parting to Salford, and Salford still not able to believe their luck after that Drury drop goal. Still got the ball and trying desperately to bring the ball about. Good pass inside to Eccles. Eccles doing well to get it to Blakey. Blakey dummying, shimmying, turning round over the halfway line. Takes 3 men to knock him down. The ball going left to Lee, Mark Lee, who's made the transition from scrum half to hooker back to scrum half, which is fairly unusual, I suppose. Not only that, but he's been good at it. And the bomb going up. Keith Dixon can't get there, but Darrell Powell does. And that's surely a trip by Keith Hampson. Now that is an automatic sending off offence. The referee is telling the Keighley players to get away from the thing. Certainly Hampson went straight in with it. Why on earth is Mr. Cummings asking for the touch judge to come on? Goodness only knows. He was within a yard of the incident. Powell is obviously in pain, and yet the referee, who's within sight of the incident, has to go to the touch judge and is now asking the two players what. Well, that baffles me totally. Simon Irving, I'm sure, can't believe what's going on out there, saying a few things to Mr. Cummings, and Mr. Cummings obviously isn't going to send Hampson off, which I think he'll find Absolutely surprised, and to put him on report is nothing short of chickening out. That is desperately bad refereeing, and yet we're constantly told by Greg McCullum that our referees are better than ever. Well, I dispute that, Mr. McCullum, because that was a dreadful decision by Mr. Cummings. It was a deliberate trip, and he should have been sent off. And if Cummings is saying he didn't see it, then the man must be blind and needs a white stick. The ball coming in field. This time it's Stevie Hall going forward, so Keighley again without any luck. I think we should ask why was Daryl Powell sent to the sin bin, and now we should ask why was Steve Hampson not sent off the field of play. Irving tackled deep inside the Salford half. Grant Dury trying to perpetuate the attack. Martin Wood doing likewise. Well, not the best of passes by Sonny Wackaroo. He eventually picks it up himself. Grant Dury got Keith Dixon there. Keith Dixon with no alternative than to go on his own. Salford read the situation well and got between man and ball, but Daryl Powell now looking for sort. Then Martin Wood going down the blind side. Powell made the initial break. Martin Wood backing up, and Phil Cantle on Chris Robinson. Powell throwing the short ball out. Dixon did well getting it to Irving. Irving did even better getting it to Milner. Milner going for the line, crashes into the corner flag. David Larder felt it was a try, but certainly I think the touch judge, who was right on the spot having a chat to the referee, one has to say from my angle, which isn't the best, the touch judge and referee's decision was perfectly correct. On saying that, Mark Milner did well, and certainly David Larder for a moment felt that the try was there. Also felt that was a forward pass, but the referee didn't give it, and the tackle by Steve Hall on Fatasini stops Salford dead in their tracks. But the scoreline still reading 8-6. Salford coming forward twice now. Keighley have had opportunities which they haven't taken, and it's Salford driving deep inside the Keighley half of the field again. 8-6 the scoreline, with Salford just in the narrowest of leads. Forber. Hender punch there surely on Grant Dury, which again was totally ignored by the touch judge. Kick through by Lee. Keith Dixon taking it. Simon Ray will get to acting halfback and try and drive it away. And Simon Ray doing well. Gets over his 20-metre line. Made an invaluable 15 metres or so there. Not only that, gave his forwards and backs time to get back into their positions. And Daryl Powell looking for support. Jason Critchley was the first man there, but Powell used him as a foil. Eventually let it go to Simon Irving, and Cantlon putting the ball to Steve Hall. Steve Hall, powerful upper body, drives forward, lets everyone know that he's there. 24 minutes of the second half gone, and the Cougars still trailing by 2 points, and Phil Cantlon off on one of his runs from acting halfback. Turned round, put the ball in field to Martin Wood, to Sonny Wackaroo. Wackaroo back to Chris Robinson. Robinson back to Dury. Dury back to Keith Dixon. Dixon to Simon Irving. But yet a gap hasn't appeared in the Salford defence. One has to give Salford full marks for that. This time it's Dixon putting the short kick over the top. Perfectly judged. Didn't bounce well as far as Keighley were concerned. They'd have liked to come in field and back to Jason Critchley, but I doubt that Steve Davies or Stephen Hendry could have done that. And the scrimmage is Salford's, and we're deep inside Salford territory. .15 minutes to go. The scoreline reading 8-6 in favour of Salford, and it's Sinai doing well, stretches out of 3 tackles, gets away from Grant Dury, gets up to Keith Dixon, who only holds him at the second attempt, marks to Dury, who came back after failing with 1 tackle and finally managed to stifle the man and ball. This time it's Panaper putting the ball out to Darren Rogers. Rogers well tackled by Simon Ray. Simon Ray done a sterling tackling stint out there on the wing, but Salford still driving forward. Sonny Wackaroo and Martin Wood having to look alive to get in and stop the ball from moving, and Mark Lee moving it wide. Is the danger here? In fact, that's Mark Lee. My apologies, it was Blakely with the previous pass. Eccles coming forward. Tackled by Cantlon, confirmed by Steve Hall. Peter Edwards driving away from some bad tackling. This time there might be danger. Panaper going for the line. 5 metres short. The 6 tackle indicated by the referee. 8-6 the scoreline. Lee puts the short kick through. It ricochets off a Keighley man. Salford are in possession again, and surely this means that the try is there. The try is given. Scott Naylor, the man who scored the try, and the scoreline reading 12 points to 6, soon to be 14-6, and Keighley now with Everest to climb, but full marks to them. They've held out for so long. They've had the worst of some contentious decisions, I think is a calm word to use. The Powell sin binning cost them 8 points, and who knows what the Hampson putting on report has meant to them, because I have to say again that to me that was a sending off offence, and for the referee who was on the spot to purely and simply put him on report is to my mind opting out. The kick to come from Steve Blakely, which will make it 14-6. The kick is good. So Keighley now, as I say, with a massive cliff to climb if they're to get anything out of this game, and Salford at 14-6, no doubt feeling desperately easy about this game and feeling that they're in total command. Still though, time for Keighley to get back into the game. The old cliche game's never won until it's lost comes to mind, and certainly in this day and age where points seem to be scored every 5 minutes, then I've no doubt about it that more points will be scored in this half. In the meantime, Grant Dory going to the touchline. Another substitution being made by the Cougars. And the Cougars not too far away from the end of the season. A few of the lads going across to Benidorm for a brief trip, but they won't be even thinking about this for the next 12 minutes or so. They'll be thinking about rugby league football. David Larder playing the ball. Cantlon getting it to Chris Robinson. Simon Ray, ever willing, coming in. Ball's gone loose, and I have to say I think that's a knock-on, which will give the advantage to Salford. But in fact the referee saying that the Salford man knocked it out of the arms. Could see that from 15 yards or so away, couldn't he? Couldn't see the attempted trip by Hampson. And Steve Hall making a drive, doing well despite the attentions of Sam Panaper and Cliff Eccles. The ball going wide to Daryl Powell. Powell again using the angles. Mark Milner again, the ever willing, coming in. I think one advantage Salford have had throughout the season is that the number of injuries they've had has been very few indeed, whereas even today Keighley are missing several guys who would normally be in their ranks. King, Pinkney, Ayres, Stoop all immediately spring to mind, but on saying that, the lads out there have done a good job. Sonny Wakaru going forward, getting up to play the ball. Robinson reversing the point of play. Taffy on the field, puts the kick over the top. Critchley racing through. Hampson takes it, and again the Keighley attack comes to nothing. Taffy in again at the tackle. Can he add some impetus to the Keighley side? In the meantime, Sonny Wakaru knocked away like a fly instead of a 14.5 stone, 15 stone forward, and Salford again driving the ball outside their own 20-metre line. Paul Forber coming forward. Forber getting up to play the ball. Puts the ball into midfield, and Salford again trying to move the ball wide and find space. Doing well. Well, Again, Keighley not at their best. McAvoy going through some desultory tackling and making space, and Lee putting the grubber kick down the touchline side. Keith Dixon not even pretending to make an effort to get it to the touchline, quite wisely just allows the ball going to touch, and the scrum down and the head will of course be Keighley's. Steve Hall just having a word with Darren Fleury. Phil Cantillon, who scored that superb try. Steve Hall going off the field, being substituted. And Jason Ramshaw coming on and going to prop. (14-6). Remember, Salford in the lead, and Jason Critchley coming in at the stand-off half position and doing well, getting away from 3 tackles, making a lot of yardage. Robinson at acting halfback puts the ball to Taffy at midfield. Martin Wood, short ball to Simon Irving. Simon Irving plays the ball. Ramshaw gets it to Simon Ray, but the Salford defenders very much aware that they haven't too long to go and the cup is theirs, and no doubt a fairly hefty bonus. And Taffy just getting it to Wood, who gets it back to Jason Ramshaw, and Jason Ramshaw having a bit of an argument with Forber. Phil Cantillon doing well, puts the ball out to Robinson. Robinson does well. The ball coming out to Irving. Did it touch a Salford man? Can't quite see what the referee said, but Keith Dixon going forward. Keith Dixon held inside the Salford half, and Salford just getting on with their tackling. Darren Fleury going forward. Darren Fleury does well, spins out of 3 tackles, makes a lot of yardage, still keeps on going. It's the type of spirit that Keith need at this moment. Sonny Wakaru trying to do likewise, gets over the 20-metre line before he's tackled. The ball coming left, and it's Taffy gets it back to Darryl Powell. Darryl Powell in a heavy towel, getting up or trying to get up quickly to play the ball, meeting a bit of resistance, and in the meantime the ball goes to Chris Robinson, to Keith Dixon, Dixon to Martin Wood, Wood turning round, trying desperately to offload, can't do so, and it's Chris Robinson, an acting halfback. The ball goes to Taffy. Taffy going to put the kick across, not the best kick we've ever seen. Simon Ray surely a yard or so offside, and the referee agrees with me. I agree with the referee, which is something hasn't been too often during this game, and the penalty kick goes to Salford, and they remain in the lead at 14 points to 6, and we've got 5.5 minutes to go to the final hooter, and the sands of time running out as far as the Cougars concerned. Cougars supporter on the far side making his presence felt, and in the meantime the kick will be taken eventually. Substitutions being made on the touchline side, and the crowd building up as we're talking to you. One would imagine that there's around about 25 to 30,000 watching the game now, and Mr. Cummings is asking Darryl Powell to go across and have a word with him for some reason or other. Always speculation as to what's said at this type of meeting when the referee gets involved talking to the players, especially when he drags him some 25 yards to talk to him. And the kick to touch successful as far as Salford concerned. And we just have some 5 minutes of time to go here at Old Trafford. Just seen the Wigan and St Helens team looking on interestedly. The cup is already in position, ready to be presented to the winners. The ball lost, the referee says play on, and Keighley are with the ball. Chris Robinson gets it to Mark Milner. Mark Milner got Simon Ray outside him, but Mark Milner trying desperately to make the break before handing on to the wingman, can't do so, and this time it's Jason Ramshaw has a tilt. Jason Ramshaw tackled in midfield, gets up, plays the ball. Penalty kick, one would imagine, given to Keighley. Phil Cantillon from acting half-back trying to bring the ball away. Cantillon still going forward, gets it to Taffy. Taffy gets out the wing to Critchley. Critchley looked for all the world as though he was going to score the try, but somehow or other Sinai just managed to get a hand on him. Critchley went into touch, and it will be a scrimmage 10 metres in, but again, I think 9 times out of 10 Jason Critchley would have scored that try. This time Sinai just managed to tap his ankles. I'm sure Critchley felt that he was stretching over for a try, which if he'd managed to score would have made it 14-10 and put the game back in the boiling pot. As it is, that tackle by Sinai important in that Salford win the scrimmage, get the ball, bring it away, and they're still 8 points in the lead. Critchley then, no doubt hoping against hope to be going on the tour by the Great Britain boys, which starts towards the end of September. And in the meantime, here at Old Trafford, it's Salford who have one hand on the cup and Blakely just moving the ball out wide. Salford bringing the ball to the halfway line. For a moment, felt that Darren Fleary had got a bang, but he, getting up out of the tackle, had an admirable game. The ball lost. Keighley back in possession. Critchley getting up, playing the ball quickly. Cantillon putting it to Chris Robinson. Chris Robinson to Martin Wood. Martin Wood a trifle too quickly, giving it to Mark Milner, and Mark Milner surrounded by Salford tacklers as he got the ball, and Wood just putting it into midfield. Wackaroo again looking to try and make the break over the halfway line. Cantillon putting it right to Martin Wood. Das Fleury does well, gets the ball to Simon Ray. Simon Ray bravely going forward, not able to make too much progress, and the Cougars, one feels this could possibly be their last chance. Latta Tafai giving it to Jason Ramshaw. Ramshaw tackled by Lee, bringing the ball blind to Chris Robinson. Robinson putting the kick over the top. Beautifully read by Hampson, and Hampson, fortunate still to be on the field of play, takes the ball and comes outside his own 20-metre line. Has a meaningful look at Jason Ramshaw, but play going on, and Salford just, as I said previously, more than content to just keep on driving the ball. Well tackled there, and Fleury and Martin Wood again in at the tackling. Halfway line. Salford putting the ball. And Salford just quite content to allow the stopwatch to flicker away. Good ball to Sinai. Sinai going through something. Tackling, going forward. Couldn't quite get out of the last tackler, which was Martin Wood. Gets up to play the ball going wide. There goes the drop kick I've been threatening for ages. Lee, the man who dropped the goal. And Keighley now feeling, I think, that it isn't going to be their afternoon. And Mark Lee dropping the goal that makes it 15 points to 6. And the Cougars' hopes of third time lucky against Salford being extinguished rapidly. But there will be controversial thoughts about this game. The sin pinning of Daryl Powell, which cost the Cougars 8 points. The non-sending off of Hampson and the non-sin binning of Eccles all have a bearing on this game, and I think the referee has a fairly heavy responsibility as to this afternoon's proceedings. And I think the main thing the referee does, as far as I'm concerned, is to provide entertainment for the crowd. And I think one of the things the referee has done this afternoon is to prevent that entertainment from being even better than it has. Wood up to the 20-metre line, getting up to play the ball. The ball coming out wide. Sonny Wackaroo not able to make any progress though. Chris Robinson, in fact it's Tafai, coming up the blind side, and didn't Critchley do magnificently well to avoid going into touch there. 15-6 though the scoreline here at Old Trafford. Das Fleury still making those drives forward. Wonder if when he came to Keighley 3 years ago from Dewsbury, he could have envisaged afternoons such as this, the second time he's played at Old Trafford for the Cougars. And now Salford with the ball just inside their own half. Rogers taking the opportunity to collect a kick by Keith Dixon. Salford inside the Keighley half now. Driving forward. Constantly looking to move the ball out wide, using the blind side though. And the Keighley tackling still heavy and strong, still sound. And the professionalism that Phil Larder has put into them reaping dividends. But there might be a try here as it's the Salford team go in for the winning try, no question about that. Naylor, the man who scored the try. The heads are down now as far as Keighley concerned. And Salford know that they've won the trophy. Keighley know that they've lost it. The Keighley supporters realise that it hasn't to be their afternoon, and yet one has to give the Keighley supporters full marks for even now standing up and chanting Cougars, Cougars. But out there on the park, it's the Salford team who have won the cup. The scoreline reading 19 points to 6 with the kick at goal to cup from Steve Blakely, and certainly the way things have been going as far as the Cougars concerned. The kick at goal, if it kicked it from the middle of the stand, would be successful, but we'll have to wait and see, of course. But certainly I think everything has gone Salford's way this afternoon. On saying that, they have played well, no question about that. And in any sport, you ride your luck and you take the most of your opportunities, and Salford have done just that. Tremendous afternoon's entertainment. 19-6. Salford in the lead. The kick from the touchline side, and in fact the kick not good. And the hoot has gone. Salford it is who are celebrating, and rightly so. You don't win many cups in any sport, and Sam Panapa must be particularly delighted after being here with the Wigan team, and now a repeat performance with Salford. So the two teams celebrating, I suppose, in different ways out there in the middle. Salford quite rightly celebrating a double, and the Cougars team disappointed, but they are getting together as a team. And certainly Andy Gregory there just giving his congratulations to his team. And Paul Harrison from the Rugby League just telling Andy Gregory what he wants his boys to do. And Mr. McCullum, who'll be looking at the video of the Hampson incident, also down there looking on. Don't think too many Cougars fans will have too many words to say to him. As I say, disappointment as far as the Cougars concerned. Magnificent try by Phil Cantlon in the first half, but at the end of the day, the winners, Salford Rugby League Club.